Welcome to Journey to Lasting Love, where we talk about what it really takes to build lasting love and a life that feels meaningful, connected, and full of joy. I'm Tina Shayani, the head coach at T-Shay Coaching, and every week we dive into the conversations that help you grow so you can create love that lasts, confidence that's unshakable, and a life that actually feels good to live. Because real love isn't luck. It's something we learn to build one moment at a time. This is Journey to Lasting Love. Have you ever met someone and thought, if I could just help them get it together, we would be so perfect? You see the potential, you see who they could be, and suddenly you're not just dating. You're in a full-time renovation project. You start imagining their after photo, not who they are right now, but who they might become. If you just loved them enough, supported them enough, and fixed them enough. That's what we're talking about today. Why so many good, caring, loving people keep falling for the fixer-upper, and why almost always it ends in heartbreak. I call this the project relationship, and if you've ever been in one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Journey to Lasting Love. I'm your host, Tina Shayani, and the head coach at T-Shay Coaching, where we help people attract and build lasting, loving relationships, the kind that actually grow with you and get better with time. If you're new here, welcome. You're in just the right place because this episode, it might sting a little, but it's going to open your eyes in the best possible way. And if you've been with me before, you already know what it's like. We talk about love. I don't sugarcoat it, self-worth, and the patterns that keep you stuck. I tell you what you need to hear, even if it feels kind of bad, so you can finally start seeing yourself and your relationships clearly. Let's start with something that most people really don't like to admit. We love a good project. We love the idea of taking something broken and making it beautiful. It's like the ultimate upcycle of helping someone reach their potential, of proving that love, not just any love, but our love, will heal what's been hurt. And listen, this comes from a good place. You're not broken because you've done this before. It makes you a kind and compassionate person. You see the best in people. And a lot of this does come up with the stories we grew up on. Think about the story of Beauty and the Beast. Belle is this beautiful, ridiculously smart, kind, amazing person that everybody loves. And her love literally transforms a beast into a prince. Now, if that's not a fantasy and if that's not a lot of pressure, and even the stories that we gravitate towards as adults, the 50 Shades of Grey series, here was this awesome woman and she met this really messed up person and he treated everybody bad except for her. For her, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, he was a different man and she succeeded in reforming him. So what does this teach us? We've been taught that if we just love hard enough, we can succeed in places that everyone else has failed. But here's where it goes wrong. We are not falling in love with that person. We're falling in love with who they could be. And that's where the pain and the problems begin. Because when you fall for potential, you start building a fantasy instead of a relationship. Here's the thing about falling for potential. It makes you feel hopeful. You convince yourself that you're being patient, supportive, understanding, but what you're actually doing is ignoring what's right in front of you. The thing that's right in front of you, that's the thing that's real. And here's another difficult but extremely true thing to know. People don't change because you want them to. They change because staying the way that they are is so painful that the pain of staying the same is more painful than changing their lives. They change when their life stops working for them, not when you show them how great it can be. Sure, you can inspire someone, You can model growth, but you can't carry someone to it. They have to want to do it. You can't force somebody else to change. Think how difficult it is to change yourself. Now, it's even more difficult, if not impossible, to change somebody else. If you're anything like so many of my clients, you've believed that love is supposed to fix things, that love is magical. That is a noble thing to hang on to help them to reach their potential. You see flashes of what they could be and think, if I just keep showing up, if I'm patient, if I love harder. But here's what usually happens. You become emotionally depleted. You start explaining, reminding, rescuing, defending, nagging. Nobody likes to be nagged. And before long, you're doing both people's jobs in the relationship. You start managing the connection instead of experiencing it, instead of building it. And that's when it shifts from love to labor. At the start of any relationship, people are on their best behavior. You need to know that. They're attentive, they listen, they make an effort because that's what everyone does when something's new. So if what you're seeing in those first few months is already inconsistent, already emotionally confusing, already one-sided, that's not the preview. That's the whole movie. That is the pattern. The pattern repeats unless you interrupt that pattern. If they're dismissive now, they'll be distant later. If they're unreliable now, they'll be unavailable later. If they talk about growth but never follow through, you're dating a promise, not a person. And a promise cannot love you back. When I say reality check, I'm not telling you to stop hoping for better. I'm telling you to ground your hope in what's actually happening in front of you. Look at the evidence. Do their actions match their words? Do they follow through on even small things? Do they take responsibility or always have excuses? Do they make room for your needs or is it just about them? Are they giving in kind or are they just there to take from you? That's your data. That's who they are, not who you wish they could be or would be. Every time you tell yourself, they'll change once they see how much I love them, you're bargaining with reality. What you see now is what you get, and at best, you're seeing their polished version. When the newness fades, the real person shows up. So if you've already justified things early on, you're not in a relationship. You are in a renovation. If you're dating, pay attention in those early phases. That's when people show their emotional baseline. And your job isn't to fix it, it's to decide if it works for you, if this is someone and a situation that you want to live with. That's being choosy and choosing what fits into your life. It's not being judgmental, it's being honest. When you look at the person in front of you, ask yourself, can I live with who they are today? Not who they might become. Because when you choose potential, you're also choosing to carry the weight of that potential. And eventually, it gets really heavy. Love isn't supposed to feel like homework, it's supposed to feel like a partnership. Love doesn't require you to renovate someone's personality. It asks you to recognize what's real and decide if it's for you. You don't need to fall for the dream of who they could become. You need to respect yourself and the other person enough to love what's actually in front of you, or walk away if you can't. That is where your power lies, not in fixing, but in choosing. If this sounds uncomfortably familiar, DM me the word cycle on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll send you a free guide that I just made and tell me if you think it's pretty. I'll help you start recognizing these patterns clearly because once you see them, you can't unsee them. And that's exactly where change begins. Let's talk about why this happens, especially for women. I see it so often. Bright, capable, beautiful, compassionate women who can handle everything else in their lives, but keep ending up exhausted in relationships. They meet a man who's charming but inconsistent. He's got potential. He's still healing, still figuring himself out. And instead of saying, that's not mine to fix, they say, he just needs someone who believes in him. Because we're taught that love is endurance, that a good woman stays, they nurture, they help. There is also a difference between doing this nurturing and staying and helping for a husband and a father of your children, as opposed to doing this for a boyfriend. These are two very different circumstances. But there is a line between support and sacrifice. Let me tell you a story. Let me share with you one of my client experiences. Let's call her Sarah, because of course I'm not going to use her real name and her real details. Sarah had lived this pattern for as long as she could remember. 3 different relationships, same story. The first man couldn't hold down a job, but he had big dreams. The second one was working on himself, but he never followed through. By the time she came to me, she was with someone new, still healing from his divorce. In our first session, she said, Tina, you don't know what I did for him. I helped him get his whole life together, and then it all just fell apart. I don't understand how he could have done this to me. Ugh, that broke my heart because it's so common. Sarah wasn't being rewarded for her loyalty. She was being replaced not because she wasn't lovable, but because she was teaching men how to rise and forgetting to ask if they were capable of rising with her. She was choosing men that weren't ready to have a real relationship with her. We traced the root of this idea back to when she was much younger. In her house, she'd always been the helper, the stabilizer in a home that was unpredictable. Her nervous system learns that being useful means being loved, that she had to be useful in order to earn the love of those around her. So, of course, she was drawn to men who needed fixing. It felt so familiar and it felt like home. At one point, she went quiet and said, oh, wow, I've been replaying this for years, haven't I? That was her turning point. She started letting people show her who they were without her interference, without her fantasy building. And the first time she met a man who was steady and grounded and ready, she told me, I'm so bored. We laughed because I knew exactly what that meant. It wasn't boredom, it was different than what she was used to. And she didn't recognize it. And that consistency, that man who was ready, felt uncomfortable. It was unrecognizable to her. And for the first time, she didn't run from that comfort. She stayed and learned what it feels like to be with a man that can support her, not one that needs to be supported by her. Once she let him in, she saw how great things could really be. Full disclosure, he wasn't the one for her, but he taught her what she needed to learn. And a few months later, she did meet the man who turned out to be the one. Another really good story that comes to mind is the story of Eliana. She was magnetic, confident, successful, and really funny. But her love life was a loop of crazy intensity. When she came to me, she said, every man I meet starts out obsessed with me and ends up distant. What am I doing wrong? I asked her to describe the spark. At the beginning, she said, it's electric, like he really is connected, like he really sees me. And I asked her, does that spark feel exciting or familiar? She paused and said, well, I guess it feels familiar. That single word, it changed everything because what she called chemistry was actually anxiety, her body recognizing the chaos it had known for such a long time. The man she was dating said all the right things. He talked about growth and healing and self awareness. He used the language of change, but none of his behavior matched his words. Every time he disappointed her, she made excuses for him. He's under pressure. He's got a lot on his plate. He's not used to someone like me. Sometimes I can be really needy. He just needs a little bit more time. He just needs me to understand him. She turned herself into his emotional coach and she called it patience. After a few sessions, we were talking and I asked her, I know you've been saying what he's been telling you. I know what his words sound like, but what is he doing? She stopped and said, he's promising me things, but they never actually happen. And that was the moment she realized he was a dreamer, but not a doer. He never followed through on the dreams of someday. He didn't take any steps to make them real. And that was her wake up call. She wasn't angry. She was just aware. She stopped romanticizing his words and living in her imagination. She stopped confusing hope with love. She realized that she was in love with the story that he was telling, but not the man standing in front of her. With this realization, she knew it was time to walk away, not because he was a terrible person, but because she wanted and deserved more. She wanted the follow through, not just the promise. From that moment on, she knew what to look for. And moving forward, she was able to recognize the man that could be her life partner, not her project. Both Sarah and Eliana realized something really important. They were not broken. They were simply using outdated definitions of love. Sarah learned that being the strong one isn't the same as being loved or being loving. Eliana learned that the spark she was chasing was anxiety dressed up as chemistry, and both discovered that a man with his shit together isn't boring. It's what safety feels like. If you recognize yourself in these stories, this is your moment. The second you see it, you can stop replaying it. Here's what awareness really means. It's not self-blame. It's finally seeing what's been running in the background. If you keep choosing fixer-uppers, it's not weakness, it's muscle memory. It's the part of you that learned that love has to be earned. So you find people who need saving because saving feels familiar. It gives you purpose. But the truth is, you can't build real connection and trust on a shaky foundation. This shift begins when you start asking better questions. Why does stability feel boring? Why does inconsistency feel exciting? Why does someone's potential matter more to me than their actual behavior? Those questions are the beginning of change. And the first time you walk away from someone who needs fixing, you'll feel that panic, that deep self doubt, and it will be so uncomfortable. And your friends will tell you that you are crazy. These are all normal things. That's the body learning that calm isn't dangerous. It's amazing. And that discomfort, that's growth. Breaking the cycle doesn't start with a dramatic event and a big goodbye. It starts with one quiet decision. I'm done building people from scraps. Ask yourself this. Are you in love with who they are right now or with the fantasy version of them that you have built in your mind? I invite you to fall in love with what's real, with the person as they are today. That's real love, not potential, not fantasy. It's loving someone imperfect, human, and someone who is growing. And the most importantly, loving them as they are right now. That's respect. No one is perfect. And that's what makes life and love not only interesting, but really beautiful. When you stop chasing what could be and start loving what is, you make space for genuine connection, real love, and actual growth. You don't need to fix anyone to prove you're worthy of love. You don't need to earn what should be given freely. And you don't have to audition for someone's attention. If someone is showing you that they're not ready, believe them. If you're the one doing all the emotional heavy lifting, that's not a partnership. That's self-abandonment. Every time you choose someone's potential over their reality, you're saying yes to a version of love that keeps you small and no to the kind that could actually grow with you. Breaking the cycle isn't about perfection. It's about noticing when you're about to walk into the same story again and choosing not to play the same role. The next time you feel that pull, that urge to fix or prove, pause and ask, do I want to build something real or do I just want to feel needed? Because being needed and being loved, they're not the same thing. When you stop reaching for chaos and start protecting your peace of mind, everything changes. You start attracting people who are actually ready, people who can meet you where you are. That's what happens when you stop settling for potential. You finally make space for real partnership. If this conversation hits home with you and you're ready to stop repeating the same story, DM me the word cycle on Instagram or Facebook, and I will send you a free guide to breaking the cycle. It's the same process I use with my clients, the one that helps you understand why you've been drawn to fixer-uppers and how to start attracting love that's actually built to last. It's the very first step because once you understand your pattern, you stop repeating it. And that's when love stops feeling so hard. Thank you for listening to Journey to Lasting Love. I hope that today's conversation gave you something to think about and a reminder that love is something we build, not something we chase. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who'd love it too. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. You can connect with me on Instagram at Journey to Lasting Love or Facebook at Tisha Coaching. And if you're ready to create a happier, more fulfilling life, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Tina Shayani, and I'll see you next time here in Journey to Lasting Love.